I think that's a wonderful segue into our next segment, Andre, about ways that we can support each other. That's something we've talked about before. Um,
Yeah.
100 Black Men of Austin. Of course, I work with Single Mom Society, but also with singles, our the Single Parent Review, which is our single parent channel and community. And
Mm.
so um, we've spoken about ways that we can collaborate and support each other, but specifically, I think about our moms, our single moms, and also our single dads, but also our single
Yeah.
moms who are raising young men. And again, we had a long conversation a few months back about that, and
Yeah.
how they are in need of those mentors, maybe fathers, not just out of the house, but out
Yeah.
of the child's life.
Yeah.
And now mom realizes, because I might get some pushback, but I truly believe a mom cannot be a dad. Mom can only be a mom. It should not be, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I will just say that um, young men need men in their lives.
Well, I would modify that and say young people,
Young
because
people, you're
young
right.
ladies need the men too, and that was an
You're
eye
right.
opener for me. Because I'll tell you, it hits different.
Yes.
Sometimes when a man says it versus a woman says it, it just hits different. It's the same thing vice versa, right? And so I'll tell you, and I love my stories, so I'll give you another story.
I love them. I
Young
love
lady,
them. Keep them
I
coming.
went to the so we took some of these kids to the Congressional Black Caucus in
Hmm.
Washington D.C. last year, and some of the I'm nosy. I'm nosy. I'll always get in the kids' business. These are college age kids,
Right,
and
of
so one of
course. And it's
the
so
so
entertaining. Why would you miss that opportunity?
right, of course, and I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna
Right,
ask questions, right?
right.
So one of the young ladies, we're walking from the conference to lunch. So it was a group of us, and we were walking and chatting, and I stopped her and I said, "Hey, so who you dating? What's the dating life look like?" Right? She's probably 21, 22, and so she goes off and she's talking about how challenging the dating life is and so on and so forth. And I got it. Right? I've heard it multiple times. I've got an 18-year-old daughter myself, so I hear it all the time. And so, but I'm smiling, I'm listening to her. Now, then she starts going into how independent she is, right? She reiterated, reinforced, that she's about getting hers and, definitely independent and doesn't really need much. And I remember asking her, I stopped her and I said, do you let your prospective boyfriend hear this all the time? Like, is this what this the posture that you're taking? And she's like, yeah, he knows what's up. I said, I said, okay, let's flip that. I said, what if he constantly told you every day how much he did not need you,
Hmm.
right? I said, he's going on and on about how he's his own man, he's independent, he likes you, he may even love you, is deciding to be with you, but if he didn't want to, he'd be just fine. How would that make you feel? And she literally stopped and
In
she
her
thought
tracks.
about it and she said,
Hmm.
I never thought about that. I said, yeah. I said, if you're independent, just be independent. You don't have to go around telling
Right,
people that you're independent,
right,
right? If you
right,
can handle yourself, you handle yourself. But telling someone constantly that they're not needed, they're going to act accordingly,
you're
right?
right.
And
Hmm.
yeah, and I can't say that another woman has told her that. Maybe she has, but coming from a male's perspective, from a man's perspective,
Hmm.
it's different. And that's what she told me. She flat out
Yeah,
told me that. And so that that was something that I had to remember to say that these young people need both.
I love
They
that.
definitely need that both
I'm so
viewpoints.
glad you spotted that, and caught that, because that is truly the case. And I think about, just on a side note, my own children right now. I have a son and a daughter,
Yeah.
21 and 19. They're both with their dad on a trip. They're taking a summer vacation with him. We're divorced, but nonetheless, the role that he plays with both of our children, father to our son, father to our daughter, but
Yes.
equally as important, because they
Yes.
both hold him in such high regard for different reasons.
Yes.
They even say, parents, we as parents, We parent our children differently. You're different. You show up as
Absolutely.
a different parent for both, for all of your children. And when I
Absolutely.
was enlightened to that, it was like, wow, as one person you show up. So imagine having two different roles and how important. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the father. That's why these mentorship programs like yours, 100 Black Men of Austin, 100 Black Men
Yeah.
of America are so necessary, so essential, so important, that you're showing up in our young women and our young men's lives. You have so many amazing programs, and we're not going to wrap this up without talking about the programs, the college programs,
Sure.
all of those programs. But
Yeah.
thank you for that. See, this
Yeah.
discussion is so important, and we want our audience, because they're not here live, but we want you, as you're seeing the replay, chime in the comments, because this will be on YouTube. Chime in the comments if you happen to have questions that you have for Andre. We'll also have his information in the description. But if you have comments, dialogue, please. We'd love to see the dialogue that you have, weighing in on these important topics. So
Absolutely.
with that said, Andre, because I said I promised you, I gave you my word I wasn't going to take up too much of your time. You're just getting back from Greasy. I know you're still maybe even a little jet lagged. So I promised. I gave you my word. So because we can go with this.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm
Yeah.
going to stay on. I'm going to try to stay on track with. Let's talk about mental health a little bit.
Okay.
Mental health, manhood, and support systems. I want to shift into something both of our platforms value, which is mental and emotional wellness of our people. For so many single dads, there's pressure to keep it all together, Andre.
Yeah.
There's a pressure that, even if they're not in the home, but where respectively, wherever they are, to keep it together, to be strong.
Right.
They don't
Right.
cry. So again, when you talked about having spaces to talk and just communicate. So we know that emotional isolation is real.
Yeah.
What are you seeing, and how can we better support men in our spaces, regarding their emotional wellness?
Yeah. That's ooh, that's a that's
I know
a
that's a
that's
loaded question. I know.
it is a loaded question. And I'll tell you simply, one of the things that I love doing when I have my board meetings in particular, usually when we have a bigger, you know, the membership meeting, we don't do this immediately, but the board members in one-on-one, I always open up with, how you doing?
Mm,
Right? And I'll get the initial answer, right? Okay, how are you really doing? Because I don't think that enough space is being given to black men in particular to truly give feedback. Because a lot of the times it's it's the fear of how what you have to say is going to be received. And so I would say that a lot of people could get better at communication, period. And that
mm,
includes listening skills,
mm,
right? And so that's one of the things that once these black men, you see it, it's a consistent thing, right? You have an initial initial prospective member wanting to be involved and get engaged, this, that, and the other. You have a certain way that they're presenting themselves, but then as they see how we operate, those you see the shell and the shield come down. They're not used to
mm.
black men telling each other that they love each other. We say that all the time. Like we'll in the call saying, I love you, man, right? And what's funny, I'm gonna tie that to an Instagram uh, trend that I saw last week that had me cracking up. It's sad but funny at the same time. And I don't know if you saw the
Mm.
same trend, but the trend was black men, calling a friend of theirs,
Oh, I
one of
saw
them
that.
homeboys, yep, and
It
wishing
said
them a
good
good
night.
night.
I love that.
I was cracking up because we already know everyone. And I looked at the comments and they said exactly what I said to my wife. I said, look, I said, let a woman do that. There would be no problems. No problem. Oh, girl,
Okay,
well, good
girl.
night.
Right.
Every last
Right.
one of the
Right.
men, there
Right.
was a pause.
Yes. What's
Hey,
going on
man.
with you? Right.
Yeah, yeah. You sick? Have you rolling? But
I
that
had to
I
keep
think was,
replaying it. I know it's true. I know,
oh
and they had
man.
several of them. The trend
Yes,
was so amazing.
had me rolling. But it was so true. And I think it really speaks to the challenges that we have to express our humanness,
Yeah.
right? Forget being a man, like the full spectrum of being a human. And by the way, that bravado, that alpha male, that machismo is not just reinforced by men. That toxicity is also reinforced by women as well,
Yeah.
right? They reinforce a lot of those toxic acceptances
Absolutely.
of being a
Absolutely.
man. And so you have a
Hmm.
lot of men that are struggling with,
Yeah.
hey, I don't match that,
Hmm.
right? So what does
Hmm.
that mean as far as me being a man? And then if I'm raising children,
Hmm.
how are they viewing myself and how should I present myself? What does authenticity look like? And so those, I think, from a how people can support black men,
Hmm.
very simply, treat them like a human, right? Don't view them solely as a black man, but hey, how are you doing for real? Like what's going on? And not everything has to be deep but part of it's just be authentic, right? Stop putting up airs. And those are some of the things that I think we need to focus on. As I came into my presidency, I had this big presentation to the membership of what my vision was. And so
Hmm.
we do a really good job as a community in general to highlight all the challenges that we have within the Black community. But the follow up is okay, well, so what? How do you solve these problems? And the way I view it is two aspects from a vision perspective. Number one, community. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's so true. I feel like in America, a lot of us here in the United States have been raised and trained in our educational system to be individualistically thinking. It's
Hmm.
about what can I do? How can I operate? How do I achieve greatness and success? There's no longer the we. So when I heard a
Hmm.
phrase, it's called Ubuntu, which is an
Hmm.
African, right? Right? Yeah.
Hmm.
And basically, the whole notion of Ubuntu is I am because you are, meaning that
Hmm.
what it's really saying is I cannot express my full humanness
Right.
without being around other humans, right? I mean, I can express all the aspects of that. So that requires community. So part of that vision is being intentionally uh, able to develop a community. If you don't have that community, then you need to create it. And so that means
Hmm.
that everything that you do needs to shift the focus into what can I do to make sure that you're successful. I'm not successful unless you're successful. And so that's one aspect. And the other aspect is Sankofa, which is
Hmm.
education, right? Which is
Yeah.
we cannot move forward without, looking at our past. And I
Hmm.
think there's too many of us right now that are sorely and absolutely miseducated, intentionally in some cases.
Yeah.
That just because you have a master's doesn't necessarily mean you haven't been miseducated. And
Exactly.
so I think those aspects were key things that I felt that we have to actively address within our community. And Black men in particular,
Hmm.
need that focus. I've been so engaged in a lot of these nonprofit spaces and the educational spaces, especially being here in Austin. And I'm telling you, Kim,
Hmm.
these young ladies are
Yeah.
tearing it up. They're tearing it up. They are graduating, getting their degrees. They're
Hmm.
involved. They're engaged, right?
Hmm.
And when I'm looking up there, I'm looking at that with a lens of, well, where are the men? Where are the young men? And it's
Yeah.
almost like they've been forgotten, right? And this is not a slight on the young ladies. Hey, this is great. This is amazing. This is what they need.
Right.
But we also need a concerted effort to focus on the bringing the young men along with the young ladies,
Yeah.
right? Because at some point in
Yeah.
time, these young ladies are going to want to date and marry somebody,
Yes.
and they're right.
Right.
So it's like let's
And they're
let's
like,
bring them
where's he
along.
at? Right.
Exactly. And so us
Hmm.
mentors, right, us elders,
Yeah.
that falls on us to intentionally reach back and pull these young men along. And so that, from my perspective, going back into the whole mental health thing, I really do think it's due to exactly I think you called it emotional isolation. I think that's a great word. It's a great word. One other story, just a quick one.
Yes,
SLA again,
please.
Saturday Leadership Academy,
Mhm.
and we're part of kicking it off. We just talked simply, simple concept.
Right.
The age range, just to give you a gauge, was the youngest young man in there was, I think, was 12. The oldest was like 17.
Mm.
We open up the conversation of, do you all know what a brotherhood is? First of all, nobody raised their hand. We said, okay, well,
What?
maybe it could be shyness. We kind of walked through that, right? And so we still, you slowly pulled out what that might be, but it was still wasn't. It was. You would think it's a simple concept. It was foreign to a lot of them. And then once
Mm.
we finally settled on what we defined as a brotherhood, we asked. Then the follow up is, do any of you all feel like you have a brotherhood with anything? Zero raised their hands. Zero. Not one of them raised their hand where they had an intimate, right, friend that was not family. We put family to the side, where they felt safe with to be themselves.
No one had no one?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nope. And the way these young men operated, you could see that. You could see it, right? And I would contend to say, as you get older, it doesn't change that much.
Mm.
Right? Even though,
That's
you're
scary.
aging,
That's
you're not necessarily
alarming.
maturing. It is absolutely alarming. And it spoke
Mhm.
to a couple trends that I ran into a couple years ago that I was unaware of. Number one, suicide rates amongst young men going through the roof and not really being talked about. And I felt like that was part of at the core, that they felt like they're not worth much. Society's telling them that they're not worth much, that they're
Right.
spending a lot of time on social media. They're constantly being told the message that, hey, you're a toxic man, so
Yeah.
you suck, right? Without the backfill of, well, or the grace or the space to allow them to be something different. It's being reinforced by a lot of the environment that they're in. And so those were the types of things that drew me to doing this work. And so I
Yeah.
think that those are really key topics that we need to be discussing more and more as a community. Looking at the youth, I think the youth is a mirror. They are a mirror of the condition that we're in as a people.
You touched on some really key points, Andre, and just so many. I can't even begin. But one of the things that I saw a study, and I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to try to put my finger on it. But they showed a study, and they spotlighted it on social media of little ones. They were in preschool,
Yeah.
and the little ones, they had a mixed group, um, black, black, Asian, white, so forth. And they were actors, though, but they didn't tell the teachers they were actors. And the teachers were asked to identify which children were at risk of behavior problems based on their actions. All of the children were doing exactly the same thing. I'm always intrigued by these types of studies, and it has to do with my background in psychology. I just like gravitate to like what are the studies showing, what are the numbers showing.
Sure.
But long story short, they honed in and saw that these children, the teachers identified the young black male, there was two of them, as the ones at risk of behavior challenges without, and not saying that that happens in all cases, I'm just
Yes.
speaking to this specific study. And so the whole point of it was to show that it starts there and then it often trails all the way through their lives,
Yes.
that they
Yes.
are seen as the risk, they are seen as troublesome, they're even before or absent of any other factors that would indicate that.
Yep.
That was so heartbreaking for me, not just for the fact that I'm raising a black son, but thinking about our communities as a whole, our culture as a whole, what does that mean? And so, even more
Yes.
so, I'm taking it on back to mentorship because
Yep.
now you got to rebuild, you have to refuel children. We all have the child in us, they say, right?
Yes.
Refueling that, rebuilding that. And so, you're doing magnificent work. Like, I can't, it's an understatement as to how important it is what you do, and the passion that you exude about it, Andre. Like they
Yeah.
couldn't have picked a better. I know I'm biased because I know you.
Yeah. I'll take it.
I'm,
I'll take it either way.
I'm
Either
a little
way.
biased.
Sure. Sure.
But they're in good hands because you
Yeah.
really seriously you're passionate about it. You have an understanding, and you're constantly reading, and you're well read about this. And I think that's important too. That we don't get complacent
Yes.
with it. You have to be ever
Yeah.
evolving.
Real quick,
Yes,
Kim.
yes,
Just on that one piece.
please.
Ooh, this is an indictment in some ways. So
Okay.
once we identify the need, right, to pour
Yes.
into these young ones and then really focus on them, the question is how many of us are equipped to do it?
Mm, drop the mic.
That is that's the issue, and that's the brokenness that we have to overcome is we really have to also start with ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to what I said with the men saying, I joined this organization talking about or coming from the perspective of how much I had to give, not realizing how much I needed it for myself, right? So that is the piece. It's not, and I tell everyone. I was at University of Texas yesterday morning, kind of walking through my journey in my career and this, that, and the other at McCombs. That's my alma mater, right? And what I told everyone, I don't care your age, everyone should have at least one mentor
Yeah.
and at least one mentee. Because what I want
Wow.
everyone to get in the habit of, instead of always being a consumer,
Yes.
taking in the goodness and all the the information, I also want you to be in the habit and practice of giving back,
Hmm.
because you learn from that. That is a
Yeah.
two-way street,
There's growth.
having someone to pour into, right? And so that's the
Yeah.
one thing I would say is yes. The answer is yes, we need to pour into our young ones, but we also need to intentionally develop ourselves and re-educate ourselves. So that's I definitely want to say that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for partnering it with that because if you're pouring into a cup and you're not pouring quality or importance, or you're not cognizant of what
That's
you're
right.
pouring, all we're doing is continuing the generational issues. I don't like to
Yes,
necessarily refer to them as curses, but the generational concerns, issues, challenges. We're just refueling that. So I think thank you
absolutely.
for spotlighting that. That is so so important.
Yeah.
This has just been a wonderful discussion, and I'm hoping our audience that is tapping into this is appreciating this as well. And again, we welcome your comments, your questions. Please stay connected with Andre. Connect with 100 Black Men. Um, are you always? Just on a side note, are you looking for mentors, or how does that process go? I know we have a couple, like maybe one or two more questions, but I did want to ask that
Yeah.
while it was on my mind.
Yeah, we are always actively looking for men that want to be engaged. We are a working organization. We're a volunteer only organization, so no one's getting paid. But we are actively looking for men.
Great.
Yep.
That's good to know. So you heard it here first. If you have a desire to do this, and as you can see, the work is so important, it's so vital. Connect. Please stay connected with him. And with and even this is nationwide. So in your respective areas, is 100 Black Men in all the states?
In all the states, that's a good question. I know for a fact it's not in all the cities, of course.
Okay.
But I mean, I would love to see if we exist in Hawaii or Alaska.
I know. I
Yeah, you
know.
know what I mean? I was just like, but I would venture to say we're probably not in all states, but
Okay. Okay.
we're in
So the
all the major
majority.
ones.
In the
Yeah, we're
majority.
definitely in the
Okay.
majority. We have quite a few chapters, well over I think 115, 120 chapters throughout the nation.
So you heard it. No excuses. No excuses. 2025, we're talking about changes and pivoting and enriching our communities, enriching our dads, our moms, and so forth. But we're really focusing in on our fathers. And so this has just been a wonderful discussion, wonderful talk. As we approach Father's Day, I want to leave space for your message, not just as a CEO, but as a Black man who's
Yeah.
seen the impact of fatherhood up close and personal, what would you say to a single father out there, divorce, co parenting, so forth, father, regardless of race, age, or cultural background,
Yeah.
who's doing his best but feels unseen? I know you've kind of talked about that
Yeah.
um, in as a whole, but specifically that person that we're visualizing, that person who's standing there, regardless of their race and so forth. It's just like, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What would you say?
First thing I would open up is find your village.
Right.
And so everyone knows that knows me knows I have a word of the year. And so my word, I've said it a few times already, my word is intentional.
Yes.
So part of being a father is intentionally being a father, not happenstance, right?
Hmm.
So just, anyone can go and provide what needs to be provided in order to have a child, but that
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that they're equipped to be a father. And so there's nothing like seeking other men that can provide wisdom and being a sounding board, being a community for you to engage with. And they don't all necessarily have to be like you, right? Preferably, you
Right.
want to have a myriad of ones. I mean, you can get all sorts of input and feedback from all walks of life, but I highly recommend that. Don't get to the point where it's about me, about what I got to do for my family. It's, hey, I'm taking this job on, right? And treating it with respect. And that respect requires me to go out and find other people and seek other men that can help me be the best version of a father that I can be for my children. So that's what I would say.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for that. To every father listening, whether you're a single dad, a co parent, a widowed father, or a caregiver, raising children on your own, we want you to know we see you. We see you. We see you today. We see you every day, but we really want you to know in this very moment that we see you. This Father's Day that's upcoming, it hasn't come yet, but it's on its way. We honor you. We honor you. Um, Thank you so much, Andre, for this
Yeah, of course.
conversation. This has been phenomenal, per usual, per usual. And I know we'll be
Yeah,
having conversations on the, on the side, on the outside, just talking about ways that we can actually really make this happen. I know
yeah.
we talked about financial literacy. Can't wait to hear more about your program with that. But before we round it off, are there any other programs that you'd like to spotlight that might be of interest or benefit to our community at large, our audience at large, that you'd like to share that we haven't necessarily had a chance to talk about today?
Yeah, so definitely mentioned the SLA. That's a big one. That's a tip of the spear for us, the Saturday Leadership Academy. So receiving donations around that has been very helpful. We've got the kids. As a matter of fact, they just participated in a drone apprenticeship program where our
Oh,
top three kids went to Detroit this past weekend, and one of our kids won first place out of 60. It was
no
absolutely
way.
amazing, but that
I
costs
think I
money.
saw that. I think I saw that.
Yeah, it
That's
was. We were so proud of
incredible.
them, so proud of them. So that's something that we're definitely engaged in. We also have a collegiate version. So I stood up
Mhm,
and charted a collegiate 100 chapter at the local HBCU here in
mhm,
Austin, at HT at Houston Tillotson University,
mhm.
and that is a co-ed organization. We're very proud of that org, and they're awesome. Those kids are ready to rock it. We've got them in the schools reading to third graders, fourth graders, all that good stuff. So we would love to, if you see them out in the community, give them a high five, reach out to them, because sometimes it can be a thankless job. And so
Yeah.
that's something that we're very interested in and proud of. The other thing that we're very focused on is at the elementary age, we're going to be kicking off an initiative on cultivating skills mastery, math and reading skills mastery, where
Sheesh.
it's very similar to a Kumon, right? So if you're used to, like, if you heard of Kumon, the the
Mhm.
the the process is still the same, where we know that the literacy rates right now within our community um, could use some improving, as well as our math skills. And so that is an initiative that we'll be doubling down on and leveraging a program that provides those services to our Black and Brown kids. So those are just a few of the initiatives that we've got in the works this year.
That's phenomenal. Great work. Great work. Kudos to you. Just we celebrate the amazing things that you're doing. 100 Black Men of Austin, 100 Black Men of America, phenomenal organization. Side question: are there any special summer programs that are going on? I know summer will be coming and going very quickly, but
Yeah.
anything specifically or any support groups for that are single dads, fathers, divorced dads, so forth, can tap into as well, just out of
We
curiosity.
have a partnership with we're doing it's with Hearts to Heal organization.
Mm.
We're looking at July, I think July 19th or 20th. We'll have more details on that, but that's going to be around, I think it's called Grit and Grief. So it's a Grit and Grief event where it's focusing on using the body, primarily around fitness, on addressing grief and loss, right? So
Wow.
yeah, so I think that that's going to, especially in line with the mental health aspects of our conversation, and so that's
That,
something that we're partnering with them on. Yeah.
that's awesome. So, with that said, thank you for that. I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that we double back to that because we talked about that at the beginning of this broad podcast and didn't want to neglect, or forget that. So,
Sure.
again, thank you for being here, Andre. The work you're doing with the 100 Black Men of Austin is not only vital, but it's legacy building. It's legacy building. To our
Absolutely.
listeners, if you know a single dad, divorced dad, co parenting dad, traditional dad, thank him. Thank
Yes.
him. Thank him the whole month. Celebrate him. I mean, really, it's so important that we do that, not because, yeah, let's just be honest, Andre, y'all
Yeah.
don't get a whole lot of holidays. You know what I'm saying? Our
No, we
men
don't.
don't get a lot of holidays all across the board. Valentine's Day, we can go through the whole list. So Father's Day, we got to go in. Mom,
We'll take them as we can get them. We try to seize our own, like Super Bowl. Try to try to take our own. Yeah, NBA Finals. Give me that. Can I have that as a holiday?
my man cave going on right now.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll take what we can get. We're not
Well,
greedy.
well, we're celebrating you today. We're celebrating you for this month and thereafter. So single dads, traditional dads, please thank them. Thank them. Singles Convos Community is a space for all of you, and we're so happy that you connected with us. Stay connected with us. We have our channel. We have episodes every week. So tune into those, subscribe, stay connected with Andre. His information will be in our description. We thank you
Yeah.
again. Happy Father's Day to you, Andre. Anything that any last things that you would like to share, or say as we close out this podcast?
No, just I mean, other than just follow us on all our social media platform. We're very engaged with the community, and so if you want to know what we've got going on, feel free to engage with us. We are active in our community, and we look forward to talking to you.
Thank you, Andre. Appreciate you. I'll look forward to connecting with you and we'll talk more about some collaborations and partnerships. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a happy Father's Day month and stay connected with us. We'll see you soon. Follow on Instagram too. Instagram information will be in the description as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kim.